Hi there, this is Ronnie and this night coming at you with a video. Um, and just as I've done a video on uh, ethics for releasing rulebooks, I thought I would throw out a video to discuss ethics in a game, particularly morality in a game, because I think it's a very, very touchy subject, and I think it's one worth discussing. I don't think there's necessarily a right or wrong answer per se, as in a catchment right or wrong answer. But I think it's interesting to hear people's views on this. Um, where do you stand, either as a player or a GM, when it comes to the kind of moral uh, overview that a game has? Do you like playing in a world that is very black and white, where uh, either as a player or as a GM, you see the players as the heroes, uh, ultimate good guys who are there to battle the forces of evil, to bring the light into the world? Are you someone who enjoys that style of gaming and find other styles that deal with darker subject matter uncomfortable, intimidating, uh, not something that you would ever want to be involved in? Maybe you don't understand why others enjoy it. Then there are those, and I count myself in this category, who enjoy playing in the grey area. I like um, not moral vacuums, because I don't think you can run a game with a moral vacuum. I think if you have a moral vacuum, you have a real problem. Um, but I do like the idea of playing a game that asks serious moral questions. Doesn't have to hit people over the head with a hammer with it, but they're there. I'll give you an example. I ran a game of Castle Falkenstein where the players were investigating a village, a small town in the middle of the Lake District, that was pretty much hidden from the rest of the area around it. And what had happened was there had been segregation. The Fae in that area were living inside a sort of anti-magic shell, for want of a better term, where their kindred powers, their ability to use their own magical abilities, have been taken from them. And they were living in segregated housing in a corner, in a dirty corner of the town. And the players loved this. Not, they didn't love the fact that Fae were being kept in a dark and dingy corner of town. They loved the allegory. They loved the idea that here they were playing in a world where they were being confronted with an allegory of something that we all know about, which is the segregation of black people in the deep south of America, and the slave trade that arose. And they really liked this game. They liked the moral question that it was asking of them. I've also done games where I've done games where they've investigated serial killers, and what I really enjoy is presenting them with a serial killer who is pretty vicious and nasty, and placing them in a situation where they are trying to stop a serial killer, usually doing a series of targeted kills, and then realizing that the people that the killer is targeting are probably even more evil than the killer is, and finding themselves questioning whether or not, I mean, ultimately they have to stop this serial killer, but they find themselves questioning when. Do they wait until the killer has actually taken out all these evil ones? One particular example is the idea of a killer coming back to kill people who had sexually abused him as a child, and was now targeting and brutally slaying child abusers. Now he's a brutal murderer, and he needs to be stopped. But then the players are left with the question, well, hold on a minute. He's actually killing people who are a hell of a lot more evil. Do we stop him, or do we wait? And I like playing in that dark world. I like playing with those questions of morality. I think they're interesting to characters. I have no problem with characters playing players playing reprehensible characters. I saw an interesting video where someone was talking about letting they had a town where everyone was, all the characters were like chaotic evil, and the town were really, really nice to them all the time, and they couldn't understand it. And I like that. I like that flip. I think that's nice. I love playing with the shades of grey and the multicolour that is life. I find black and white too restricting. Every now and again, I can run a game of black and white where the players are wonderful heroes of daring do and lawful good, and, you know, standing for truth, justice, and, you know, peace and goodwill to all men and all that stuff. But then I can only do it for one night. And I really have to be in the mood that one night to stay absolutely on that without bringing some shade of grey into it. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Coming from it, either as a player or a GM. I'd love to see some video responses on this, because I think it'd be interesting to see other points of view. Morality and ethics in games. Where do you stand? Do you play completely in the black and white either way? You know, allow players, you know, the players are super good fighting the forces of evil, or the players are super evil fighting the forces of good? Or do you like the shades of grey? Do you like to play characters that are not heroic, who might be good guys by default? They might, you know, they might stop the bad guy, but it's almost incidental. I mean, how did most of us start in this hobby? We started dungeon crawling. We didn't go into dungeons to save the princess, to save the town, to be the great heroes. We went in there to loot, pillage and plunder, kill the monsters, rip off the place, and take as much treasure as we could carry. And we just happened to save the town or the girl while we were at it. And this was pretty much lawful good behaviour, because the people we were stealing from were the bad guys, but still nicking. Okay, it's probably gold that they nicked themselves, but still, two wrongs don't make a right. But we don't think about it at the time. There's a lovely book called Paint Your Dragon by Tom Holt, where to cut a long story short with it, a statue that has been made of George and the dragon both awake. And the dragon tells this young sculptor who made the statue in the first place, because she realises that the dragon's actually quite a nice guy, and St. George is a complete bastard, he's a complete prick. But he's got all this holy power. And the dragon explains to her that the only reason he got into all this trouble was that he was constantly being told that he was evil, and because he was evil, they were going to kill him. So he started to look at human nature, and he realised that, you know, he was someone who liked to sleep and graze and maybe have the odd cow or sheep for his meal, but otherwise sleep and graze and didn't do any harm to anyone and just left people alone. And this was evil. Whilst the knights who were hunting him, these paragons of goodness, went around raping, burning, pillaging, destroying, hunting anything that looked even remotely different to them, and demanding that everyone follow their god or else, using terror, fear, intimidation, destruction of property, rape, theft, and all that. And the dragon basically says, well, don't say, you know, couldn't be said I wasn't a quick learner. Which is why he started doing all this stuff, because he thought, well, that's what humans consider to be good, and if I'm going to stop them hunting me, I'm going to have to be good, just like they are. And it's a wonderful way of looking, of twisting, and making an interesting moral point. So yeah, I'd love to hear what you guys have to say on this subject. I think it could be an interesting discussion. So come on back.